Don't worry, there's nothing wrong with your television set. This is a pixie bell. The sound is much too high for human ears. Oh, there you are, Tink. Hey, get that stuff off of me. If you're familiar with the story of Peter Pan, you know that a little sprinkling of Tinkerbell's fairy dust can make you fly. Tink, wait a minute. Haven't you forgotten something? Aren't you going to take the audience along?
But, Peter, how do we get to Neverland?
The story of Peter Pan began its life on the London stage in 1904. It was written by Scottish novelist and playwright James Matthew Barrie.
Sir James Barrie was inspired. I guess he was visited by the muse when he created Peter Pan. It was just a marvelous idea. And the testament is the fact that it's lived all these years and had so many incarnations. He created something that I guess will be immortal.
In 1913, a touring company of Peter Pan was seen by this youngster. The boy was Walt Disney. He never forgot this epic of boyhood and its unique combination of fantasy and swashbuckling adventure. In 1924, Walt also saw a silent film version of Peter Pan, starring Betty Bronson as Peter. The film contained many innovations, such as a live actress playing Tinkerbell, and special effects that were the state-of-the-art for their day. The silent film, however, adhered to many of the conventions of the stage version of Peter Pan, including the stars rather obviously flying on wires, a performer in a dog suit as Nana, and a costumed actor as the crocodile. Walt Disney's efforts to make Peter Pan as an animated feature actually began in the late 1930s, during the production of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, in an era when Disney's filmmaking imagination was at its peak.
Animation was in many ways the ideal medium for Peter Pan because it's a fantasy.
Walt Disney himself noted, "The cartoon method gave us many advantages over the stagecraft of Barrie's day, which no amount of pixie dust could cure."
Here, for the first time, was a medium where the imagination is limited. Animation could do anything, and you're so free to do things, to picture things, to show people things that you couldn't do on stage.
In 1939, Disney acquired the screen rights, and by early 1940, storyboards were begun. These never-before-seen watercolor illustrations by renowned British artist David Hall were part of Disney's initial work. Hall had also done extensive visual development of Alice in Wonderland for Disney in 1938. In this early version of the story, Nana traveled with Peter and the children to Neverland, as seen in these rare original story sketches. Much of the art created at this time was also darker than the original play, and far more sinister than a typical Disney effort. By 1941, a basic story structure was completed. However, the onset of World War II stopped the development. After the war, Walt Disney brought Peter Pan back into development. Progress continued throughout the 1940s, including extensive concept art by renowned color stylist Mary Blair.
Finally, in 1950, he said, "Now's the time, let's do it." And they did. The Disney version of Peter Pan has another interesting first. It's the first time a boy was shown as Peter Pan. There had been a tradition from the time of Maude Adams on the stage and right through Mary Martin, and in recent years, Kathy Rigby, Sandy Duncan, many others have done it, of women playing Peter Pan. But it was something that was broken, a tradition that was broken by Walt Disney by showing Peter Pan as a boy. Now, it's an animated boy, but it was really a boy's voice, and he was depicted as a boy, which is what he's supposed to be.
Walt assigned the character of Peter Pan to animator Milt Kahl.
I remember hearing Milt Kahl lecture about animation one time, and he said that one of the real challenges for him was animating weightlessness, animating a character who is sort of floating in midair, not flying, but just sort of floating. It's details like that that we in the audience are not supposed to think about. Of course, we shouldn't. We're involved in the story.
Young Bobby Driscoll was assigned to the role of Peter.
Where is that villain, Captain Hook? I'll slice him up and throw him to the crocodile.
I guess Bobby Driscoll was an obvious choice for Walt to make because he was the resident juvenile star at the studio.
Driscoll had debuted in Song of the South, after which Disney cast him in several projects, including So Dear to My Heart and as Jim Hawkins in Treasure Island.
Get on with it, girl.
My name is Wendy. Wendy Mora Angela Dodd.
Wendy's enough.
Walt also didn't have to look far for the voice of Wendy. He found what he called the gentle and gracefully feminine voice in the same actress who had played Alice in Wonderland, Kathryn Beaumont.
I heard about Peter Pan because the studio had started working on the writing part of it. I went directly from finishing Alice and immediately started working on the voice for Wendy.
Hans Conried, seen here as the face in the magic mirror, was cast in the tradition of the stage play as both Captain Hook
Peter Pan.
and Mr. Darling.
Ouch! Out, I say!
Hans Conried was inspired casting, you'd have to say, as Captain Hook. He was a consummate actor and had been one of the busiest and best radio actors throughout the 30s and 40s. So he was well schooled in how to act a part vocally.
Peter Pan will be blasted out of Neverland forever.
To bring the villainous Captain Hook to animated life, Walt assigned veteran animator Frank Thomas.
So I was wondering who was going to get the juicy assignment of doing Captain Hook, and I heard that Walt wanted me to do it. I thought, gee, putting me on that kind of a villain, a comic thing. The story man, Ed Penner, had seen him as a foppish guy, grand manners, thought this is the way to live, midnight suppers, wine, all these gourmet connoisseur type things. While the director saw him as a tough, mean guy who'd shoot the cannon and shoot his own crew on the ship, and he was a menacing villain. He was a menacing opponent for Peter Pan.
Walt knew that for his version of Peter Pan, Tinker Bell would have to be developed as a fully realized character. From the late 1930s on, character sketches trace Tinker Bell's development, and each reveals the then current conception of feminine beauty.
The character that I worked on was Tinker Bell, and Tinker Bell was visualized as a spot of light, which no doubt was something like a strong flashlight that moved around on the background of the stage. In our medium, you couldn't just use a spot of light. So I came up with the design that you see here. She's a pure pantomime character, which in itself I think is very interesting, that she didn't talk, but you know what she's thinking.
There's been a rumor for years that she was patterned after Marilyn Monroe. It's the kind of likable story people will repeat because it sounds good, but it doesn't really wash because she was not a star yet. She was not a superstar or a pop culture icon. She was in Hollywood, but the designers and animators at Disney wouldn't have known who she was.
The true inspiration for the animators was actress Margaret Carey.
It's magic for me to be able to say, yes, I was the reference model for Tinker Bell. I would walk in, and Mark and Jerry Geronimi would be sitting next to the camera, and they would show me storyboarding that they did, what they had in mind, and they would talk very quietly to me of what they wanted, and they would mark the area that they wanted me to work in. Now, behind me was this big blue cyc, and nothing else usually on the stage. Once in a while, there was a prop. That's where your pantomiming comes in, because you have to figure out in your head where everything is and then hit those marks again. So they would tell me what they wanted her to do, and then I would become Tinker Bell in front of the camera.
So I think there's this great sense of humor about Tinker Bell. There's this great kind of wry understanding. She looks like an innocent little character. She's not innocent at all.
And so Tinker Bell expresses her emotions. There's no hiding it. There's no subtlety. There's no idea of being quiet and demure, whatever she thinks is out there. Tinkerbell lives truly in the moment.
My life.
Because fairies are so small and always on the move, they unfortunately only have room for one emotional feeling at a time. The one emotion Tinkerbell couldn't control was her love for Peter Pan.
Well, Peter just took her for granted. And she was there. She was annoying. She was fun when he needed her. But Peter was all for Peter. She's today's woman. She's absolutely today's woman. Women can do anything. I'm going to try this. I'm going to do whatever it is. No one has told her that, oh, no, that's not what ladies do.
Tinkerbell has it all. A modern fairy who makes her own decisions, living life to the fullest.
She's still just as adorable as she ever was. She is this feeling of freedom and adventure that people want.
The second part of my performance after the recording was done was what was really making the film, although in this situation, it wasn't a film the audience saw. It was only for the animators, and it basically was done so that the animator could watch the action taking place.
The audience always got confused when we talked about live action help. We'd say, well, an artist needs a model. You got to have something to guide you. But it was also very helpful in little ways of a guy turning and looking back over his shoulder. How far do you turn his head? And you find if you got the real person to do it, this other arm here would come out as it turned, or something come up to his chin, or some little thing you hadn't thought of. And very often that would make the scene come alive.
A codfish on a hook. I'll get you for this plan. If it's the last thing I do.
If America has an art form, I'd say it's the Disney feature cartoon.
After nearly 2 decades of work, dozens of story treatments, and thousands of drawings, Walt Disney's Peter Pan was finally finished. It was first released on February 3rd, 1953, and was an immediate audience favorite.
It's a story that has meaning for everybody, adults, you know, looking back and seeing this little boy who doesn't want to grow up.
The idea of keeping that youthful spirit, not surrendering your childhood, well, that's a very strong idea and a very magical one that has enormous appeal. And then, of course, it was sprinkled with that Disney magic. Talk about, a perfect marriage. Peter Pan and Disney.